Good evening, Zimbabwe. This is Change Radio News. Today is Tuesday, 30 September 2025. The news is read by Divine Nambira. Here are the news headlines. Activist Masaraure slams Mnangagwa and Chiwenga, says Zimbabwe deserves better. Manicaland miners ordered to fund Zanu PF conference, and Advocate Mahere labels Lake Chivero crisis a national disaster. And now for the news in detail. Prominent civic activist Obert Masaraure has slammed both Emerson Mnangagwa and his deputy Constantino Chiwenga, saying Zimbabwe deserves better leadership. Masaraure, who leads the Amalgamated Rural Teachers Union and is part of Job Seekers National Democratic Working Group, said there is no lesser evil between the two and that he rejects both. He stated that evil should never be your bad fellow. He urged Zimbabweans to resist tyranny and work towards rebuilding a better nation. Masaraure also called on state institutions to uphold the constitution and protect the people, warning that these two historical mistakes should never be allowed to tear down our beautiful republic. Miners in Zimbabwe's Manicaland province are protesting a government order requiring each of them to pay a mandatory $3,000 to support the upcoming Zanu PF annual conference. The demand, issued in a letter by Provincial Affairs Minister Mishek Mugadza, has sparked widespread anger, particularly among miners in Penalonga, who say the contribution is excessive and unjustified. Advocate Fadzayi Mahere has described the worsening state of Lake Chivero as a national disaster. In a post on X, she accused the government of failing to protect Zimbabwe's natural resources, warning that environmental destruction is spreading from wetlands to lakes and minefields. Her remarks come amid rising concerns over pollution at Harare's main water source and poor environmental management, which experts say could threaten public health and biodiversity. A growing conflict in Goromonzi has raised alarm over the treatment of local communities in the face of foreign investment projects. This is not an isolated incident. Similar tensions have been reported in Mount Darwin and Magunje, where communities resisting Chinese-run projects have clashed with armed soldiers. According to news reports, the military is increasingly being used to protect foreign business interests at the expense of local people. Analysts warn that when citizens are displaced without consultation and when dissent is crushed by force, what is presented as investment becomes exploitation. Civic groups are now urging government to put people before profit and uphold human rights, transparency, and constitutional protections. Cimas yesterday led a media tour of the newly refurbished private obstetrics and gynecology ward at Avenues Clinic in Harare. The upgrade features state-of-the-art equipment, modern private rooms, and improved clinical infrastructure. General Manager Sibusisi Wendlovu said the project, which has revamped two-thirds of the hospital's wards, supports government efforts to provide world-class healthcare for women. Zimbabwe's parliament has raised serious concerns over the growing number of armed robberies across the country. The Police Commissioner General Stephen Matamba appeared before the defense and security community to explain how law enforcement is responding to the violent crime wave. As police intensify their clampdown on unroadworthy vehicles, Commissioner Paul Nyati and senior officers inspected impounded cars at Milton Park Police Station in Harare. Under Operation No to Unroadworthy Vehicles, police say no vehicle will return to the road until fully cleared. NetOne CEO Raphael Mushanawani has been arrested by the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission over alleged fraud and abuse of office involving $1.2 million. Zach says the money was released for a system upgrade without approval from the company's executive or board. Mushanawani is expected to appear in court today. In economic news, the government has announced April 20, 2026 as the deadline for companies and private business corporations to register to ensure compliance and maintain an accurate business register. However, citizens remain skeptical, fearing the move may target informal businesses lacking political connections, while protecting those with briefcase companies. And in news from local communities, a domestic dispute in Chegutu saw a 22-year-old man torch a hut and damage his father's property, causing losses of $340. He was arrested, pleaded guilty to malicious damage, and was sentenced to 10 months with a condition to pay restitution by October 2025. In entertainment news, Zimbabwean author NoViolet Bulawayo has won the 2025 Best of Caine Prize for her short story Hitting Budapest, originally awarded the Caine Prize for African Writing in 2011. The honorary prize marks the 25th anniversary of the Caine Prize and celebrates the most impactful past winners. Born Elizabeth Zandile in Cholocho, Bulawayo took her pen name from her mother's name, Violet, and her hometown. She now lives in the U.S., where she studied creative writing at Cornell University. In international news, Madagascar's President Andry Rajoelina has dissolved his government following mass youth-led protests over water and electricity shortages. At least 22 people have died and over 100 were injured in the unrest, now in its third day. The protests, the biggest in years, were inspired by Gen Z movements in Kenya and Nepal. In a televised address, Rajoelina acknowledged public anger and apologized for government failures, promising support to affected businesses. And finally, in sports news, the Zimbabwe Football Association has appointed Caetano Tembo as the Warriors' second assistant coach ahead of the 2025 AFCON finals. Tembo, currently head coach at South Africa's Sekhukhune United, was unveiled in Harare during the announcement of Zimbabwe's squad for upcoming World Cup qualifiers against South Africa and Lesotho. His first assignment will be the matches against Bafana Bafana in Durban on October 10 and Lesotho in Polokwane 3 days later. Warriors head coach Michael Nees says Tembo brings valuable experience from his time in the South African League and will strengthen the team's technical bench for the AFCON campaign in Morocco. Meanwhile, FIFA has handed South Africa a 3-point deduction for fielding Teboho Mokoena while he was ineligible during their 2-0 win over Lesotho in a 2026 World Cup qualifier on 21 March 2025. To end the news bulletin, here are the headlines once again. Activist Masaraure slams Mnangagwa and Chiwenga, says Zimbabwe deserves better. Manicaland miners ordered to fund Zanu PF conference, and advocate Mahere labels Lake Chivero crisis a national disaster. And that concludes our bulletin for today. We thank you for listening. From myself, Divine Nambira, and the entire team at Change Radio, we wish you a blessed night.